Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today's video will be about the best books I've read so far this year. So far in 2022, I've read a total of 62 books and I have 12 favorites. The 12 books I'm going to talk about today are just books that have really stood out to me and have become some new favorite books. Most of these books you're probably going to see at the end of the year in my favorites list. Like I said, I have 12 favorites, so I'm going to kind of go through them pretty fast. I don't want to make this video super long, but I will link all of my wrap-ups where I've talked about these books before, so if you want to know even more detail, everything will be linked down below. I'm not putting these books in any particular order other than from when I read them. So the first book I read in January, and then it's just going to lead up to now. The first favorite of the year that I had was Juniper Hill by Devney Perry. This is the second book in the Eden series. This is a small town romance. It follows a single mom who moves to Quincy and she meets Knox, who owns this restaurant, and he's a chef. This was so adorable, so heartwarming. I loved both Memphis and Knox and Drake. I think this is my favorite in the series so far. I just really loved the whole vibe and the characters and the story. I just really adored this book. It was so good. The next favorite is A Takeover by T.L. Swan. This is the second book in the Miles Had Club series. This is also another single mom romance. Claire is running her late husband's business and she ends up falling in love with Tristan, who wants to help her out and buy out the company, and they kind of have a little bit of like hate to love going on. Claire is also older than Tristan by a couple of years, which I normally don't like in books, but I feel like it wasn't super obvious in this book, like they didn't make it a big deal. I really love Tristan and Claire's relationship, and I love the bond that Tristan created with her sons. I just really loved this book. It was so good. And you guys actually picked this for me to read. I did a Pick What I Read series at the beginning of the year, which I no longer do. But basically, I asked you guys to pick a book for me to read and I would read it in 3 months. And this was the book that everybody agreed on, and I ended up loving it, and I'm so glad you guys recommended this book to me. Then we have Unraveling Him by Claire Kingsley. This is the third book in the Bailey Brothers series. Fiona is leaving her life behind her and wanting a new start, but her car ends up having some trouble, so she stops in at Evan's, and he's a mechanic, and they kind of have some like business connections. It was just super cute. Kind of slow burn. I loved the small town vibes. I absolutely love the Bailey family. And I love how this was kind of like found family a little bit, like Fiona found her family, and I really loved that about this book, and I just loved the romance between Evan and Fiona. The next two are part of a series, so we have Binding 13 and Keeping 13 by Chloe Walsh. This is book 1 and book 2 in the Boys of Tommen series. This is a high school new adult romance series. These first two books follow the same characters, Shannon and Johnny. Shannon moves to this new school and she is very like shy and quiet, and Johnny is the high school rugby star. They both just end up having this connection that eventually blossoms into a beautiful, heartwarming romance. It's friends to lovers, it's slow burn, there's a little bit of a forbidden aspect. Definitely boy falls first. Johnny was like obsessed with Shannon from like the beginning. He just wanted her happy and safe and loved. I just loved their relationship. It was so cute and innocent. There's also a lot of heavy topics in this series as well. A lot of emotional and physical abuse, and there's also a lot of mental health mention and drugs and a lot of other kind of dark stuff. But these first two books were just amazing. I really loved Shannon and Johnny. Another favorite of the year so far is Sweet Thing by Renee Carlino. I actually vlogged reading this, so I will link that video down below. Mia's father passes away and she goes to New York to take over his cafe, and she ends up meeting a struggling musician named Will, and they form a very fast friendship, but things obviously become very complicated and it essentially makes Mia question everything. This book was very emotional and very meaningful, and I loved the friends to lovers aspect. Their relationship was also kind of slow burn. This book definitely made me tear up quite a few times. I just really loved this book. Then we have A Million Kisses in Your Lifetime by Monica Murphy. This was a book that really surprised me. I did not expect to love it that much, but I fell in love with this. This is a high school new adult romance. It's kind of hate to love. It follows Ren and Crew, who are total opposites. Ren is very much a good girl and Crew is kind of a bad boy, and essentially Crew just wants to corrupt Ren. This was very much old money vibes, and it takes place at a prep school, kind of Grumpy Sunshine. I just really enjoyed both characters and I enjoyed the romance. And I loved the whole thing that has to do with A Million Kisses in Your Lifetime. It's about a painting, which I thought was really interesting. So I really liked that aspect as well. My next favorite is Rushing In by Claire Kingsley. This is the 4th book in the Bailey Brothers series. This is another small town romance. It's friends to lovers. Skylar moves back home to live with her dad after having some issues with her writing career, and she ends up falling in love with Gavin Bailey, who is a firefighter and overall just a daredevil. I really loved this book. It made me cry a lot. I felt very emotional while reading this. I loved the development between Gavin and Skylar and their relationship, and just like how their friendship bloomed into more. There was a little bit of a forbidden aspect in this book because Gavin works for Skylar's dad, so I loved that aspect. I also love seeing all the other family members in the series, and I just really enjoyed this one. It also kind of surprised me because I thought Unraveling Him was going to be my only favorite in this series, but I also really loved this 4th book. Another favorite of the year so far is Bad Reputation by Kristen Becca Ritchie. This is the bind up, so I guess it's the first and second book. I finally read Willow and Garrison's story and I absolutely loved it. Willow ends up discovering that she has a half-brother who is famous, and she ends up moving across the country to get to know him, and she ends up meeting Garrison, who is very much a bad boy. I loved Willow and Garrison's story. I especially loved Garrison's character development. I feel like he really grew as a character, and I loved how Willow was there by his side. And I also feel like Willow grew a lot as a character and she really stood up for herself. I loved their relationship and I loved how they did not give up on each other. It was just such a beautiful, cute, and heartfelt, but also sometimes heartbreaking romance. I loved it. Next is 10 Trends to Seduce Your Best Friend by Penny Reed. Winnie and Byron have hated each other for years. They do not get along. Winnie is a science teacher and Byron is an author. And Winnie is trying to work on her social media presence because she likes to make videos about science. And after a video of Byron and Winnie together goes viral, they sort of have to fake date. This is super cute, super romantic. Byron has the vibes of like, I hate everyone but you. He's definitely like boy falls first and like boy obsessed. He was obsessed with Winnie. It was also slow burn, and there was a lot of angst, and it was just such a good book. Then we have my only YA on this list, and that is Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. This is a very cute high school rom-com. Liz is obsessed with rom-coms, and she is waiting for her Prince Charming, and her middle school crush ends up moving back to town, and she thinks that he might be the one. However, she needs help getting his attention, and she discovers that her neighbor and enemy, Wes, is still friends with her crush. So she tries to team up with him to get her crush to notice her. I love Wes and Liz so much. They are so cute. I loved their hate to love, more like hate to friends to lovers. It was just so cute. I just really loved Liz's development as a character, and I feel like I could relate a lot to her. I just really ended up loving this book. And my last favorite of the year so far is From Lukov with Love by Mariana Zapata. This is actually my only 5-star read of the year so far. I loved this book. Jasmine is struggling to keep her figure skating dreams alive until Ivan, another figure skater, has an opportunity for her that could change everything. I loved both Ivan and Jasmine. I loved their relationship. I loved Jasmine as a female character. She was very complex, I will say. I loved how slow burn their romance was. I think that's one of my favorite things about Mariana Zapata's books, is just how slow the romances are. I love how you really get to be with the characters day in and day out, and you get to see them in just their day-to-day life. I also really loved the figure skating aspect. I don't think I've ever read a romance about figure skaters, so I liked that aspect. I mean, so much happens in this book, it's really long, but I loved everything about it, and I just thought it was the perfect slow burn, angsty, enemies to lovers romance. So those were all 12 of my favorite books of the year so far. Let me know if you have read any of these books and what you think about them, or let me know what your favorite books of the year so far are. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to give this video a like, subscribe, follow me on all my other social media, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.